What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Roy Jones Jr., Mike Tyson, Anthony Joshua, and Tyson Fury. Roy Jones said this. He says, me and Mike Tyson in our primes would probably beat Fury and Joshua. Wow. Joshua feels confident that he and Mike Tyson in their primes of their respected careers would probably have beaten Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. Jones now 51, Mike Tyson now 54. Back to Jones, he's had world titles in 4 different weight divisions, and in 2003, Jones made history when he moved up to heavyweight to decision John Ruiz to capture the WBA title. Okay, Jones will return to the ring, of course, September 12th against Iron Mike Tyson. These guys were supposed to meet years ago, but it's going to be an 8-round exhibition fight, and it's going to be on pay-per-view. But of course, while Jones admits that he and Tyson at the present would be unable to deal with the current champs, he feels their prime versions would have beat those guys. He says, not right now. We wouldn't beat them. It would be hard for us to last 12 rounds with any of those guys. They are skilled fighters, not bad boxers. They're not as skilled as we were, but they are in their primes, and we are not, Jones said. He said, in our primes, we would probably have beaten them. You can never say, but I think we would have probably beaten them on our skill level was deeper, and at the time that it is now in our primes, we would have come out on top against most of those guys. But you never know because it never happened, so you can't discredit those guys. They are good fighters, well-respected fighters, and my hat goes off to them because they are at the top. Those are the words of Roy Jones. Now, time to counterpunch. Well, we have to compare the 2003 Roy to when he was actually at heavyweight. Okay, we know he wasn't a true heavyweight. He was 154 pounds. That's why he made history. Again, I think I touched on this before. Fighting someone like John the Quiet Man Ruiz that knows what it's like to get hit by one of the hardest punchers in the division, which was David Tua. I think it would be, and you put Jones in there with, say, Joshua. I would think that Joshua, I think he would have a better chance of beating Joshua. Okay. And I think Mike beats them both, honestly. I think Tyson Fury being tall, Mike would have problems getting inside, but that's what he does. He comes in and destroys. And then with the speed he has, I think he could use that at his advantage, but it could naturally be a disadvantage for Mike, just for him crouching. Fury knows exactly where he's going because he sees, his shoulders rock, he sees his head, he sees everything until the fists come flying up north. So it depends on who's better at the game plan on that particular night, I think. Because, of course, we're looking at 2 experimental fighters. We got Tyson Fury that came in and just battered Deontay Wilder, right? That's not a normal style for him. The normality of Tyson Fury is to float like a butterfly, sting like a dragonfly, okay? But now recently we've seen him do more of a juggernaut-like style, okay? And versus Joshua, he was just seeking and destroy taller, bigger fighter that liked to work inside. He had to change up his style for Andy Ruiz. Both of the guys are in their prime, but they've tried different aspects and added more to their arsenal. So it depends on which fighters show up against these prime Jones and Tyson. Okay, Tyson is going to come in quick, fast, swift, very, very skilled. I do believe they're better skilled. Just Roy, he just had a athletically gifted way of distance. He could hit you from so many different angles, throwing looping punches, hooks. A lot of times you didn't even see Roy Jones Jr. throw a jab. So it was one of those things of him beating Joshua. And here's the thing. Prime Roy Jones could probably, like Roy said, I like how he named it, probably knock out Joshua or stop Joshua. How? Joshua did the same thing he did it with Andy Ruiz. Now, I'm not sure about the post June 1st Joshua, but I know the Joshua that was undefeated, that showed up in Madison Square Garden, right? Or the one when he fought Povetkin. Roy Jones Jr. could give him problems because Roy would be more elusive. Now, if he gets caught, that's a totally different story, people. If Joshua winds up hitting him with one of those left hooks and Jones doesn't eat it, it could be the end. But if Roy could catch Joshua like Andy Ruiz caught Joshua, I could see him not knocking him out, but doing exactly what Andy Ruiz did by just overpowering him, overwhelming him like bees in a nest with a series of punches. I see that happening because Roy had blinding hand speed in his prime. Even when he fought for the WBA heavyweight championship, he pulled up that bulk. He looked good at that weight, But the sad thing about Roy, though, we don't know how Roy would have progressed because he didn't do it long. It was an experimental thing again. So we didn't know what and didn't know how Roy would have went and progressed against Tyson or Rahman or Tua or whoever else was fighting at that particular time. You had a lot of fighters back then that Roy could have fought. You still had Holyfield. Then James Toney came up, but he already beat James Toney. So that's not really an issue. But, he could have done a lot in the sport. Then you had Lennox Lewis. So, Roy, it was one of those things where I think he has a better chance against that. A dream fight would be him fighting Tyson Fury because of their unorthodox styles, the way they move around. They're both quick. I would love to see that. But to me, Mike Tyson beats them all easier than Roy. Roy, I think, would struggle because Roy's not a true middleweight. But again, people, okay, I like how Roy said that probably. He didn't come cocky. He didn't come, well, yeah, he's pretty sure he could. But then he said probably. He didn't say definitely. Okay, so I don't want people to get the wrong idea that, oh, yeah, Roy's just talking because it's past his prime and he's saying what he can do that back then and he know he can't do it now. I'm not talking about that, okay? I looked at what he said from this article is absolutely honest, because people forget what Roy Jones Jr. could do with his reflexes, his speed, his power. He was just gifted, okay? I don't see those guys doing that. Now, Tyson Fury surprised me with Deontay Wilder. He did. But again, with both of these guys, Joshua surprised me. But I had Joshua beating Ruiz in the second fight anyway. But it's a matchup, guys. It is a very, very good question. Okay? I might go live with it. Might do that later on today. You guys tell me what you feel about Roy Jones Jr. saying him and Mike Tyson in their primes would beat the two top heavyweights today. Let me know what you think. Please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.